TG Geeks, episode 299, November 9th, 2020. The show must keep going and going and going. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of Geek-dom and Nerd-ery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely, finally cooler Phoenix, Arizona. I think we're finally cooler for the rest of the year anyway.
Yes, and I'm Ben Raggington coming to you from winter because it's below 70, and I think it's going to stay that way for some time. So if it's below 70, it's winter here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Break out the parkas.
Yes.
Nanook of the North. So let's get on with the show.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the Two Gay Geeks are discussing this.
Well, since this is episode 299 and we have a special guest for episode 300, this is our kind of recap of the last 300 episodes, or 299 episodes, our reminiscences. And
and in a
the
way
good, the bad, and the ugly.
And in a way, we've actually done more because we had done these weekly or midweek little interview segments. So you could maybe argue that we're more than 300.
Yeah, we've done more than 300, but 300 official episodes that are numbered and sent out as episodes. Then we have our birthday shout-outs, our featured podcast of the week, and we got some feedback this week, as always, on our regular shout-outs. In our second segment, we have a little bit of things, and then our weekly recap and our regular shout-outs. So let's get on with it.
Listening to Old Time Radio.
Old Time Radio. Yes, here we are. The old farts on the radio.
That's about right.
The old fart radio. Yes. Well, we're kind of going to talk about 300 episodes. That is a lot.
Well, it's not just
6 years.
Not just 300. Yeah, there's the episodes, but I think there's also everything that took place during the week.
Right, yeah. I mean, this
episode.
is, because when we talk about TG Geeks, we're not just talking about, for surprise for those of you that only listen to this show, we do have a website that we publish daily on. And so we've been doing that when we started publishing daily. I think just before we started publishing daily, we had committed to releasing an episode every Monday. Mm-hmm. And we've done that for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
So in that 6 years, we've done 300, a little over 6 years, we've done 300 episodes, which is 50 episodes a year if you divide that out.
Pretty much.
So that pretty much says that the last 4 years, we have done 52 episodes every year. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot. I mean, we have committed to that even when we went on vacation a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
we took
several years we've done that now.
The entire month of November and December and part of January off. We put together
we had all the episodes recorded,
everything recorded, all of this stuff on the website done. For 42 days, I think. We had 42 days of content.
2 years in a row now, because this will be the third year that we've done that. I remember 2 years ago, we killed ourselves.
Oh, my God.
In getting everything prepared and ahead of schedule, which burned me out in the worst way.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't enjoy Christmas because at that point I was like, oh, just bring me the frickin' New Year. But yeah, that was quite a bit of work. I mean, luckily we can recycle a lot of that.
Yeah, because we traditionally do between Thanksgiving and the New Year, we do our Christmas watching or Christmas movies and related films that are related to holiday related films anyway, let's put it that way. And, we add a few each year and we subtract a few, but we've got, and recycle some of the stuff that we've already done because it's just evergreen stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway. And for people that have not seen our publications, but kind of leaves us with 6 years and 300 episodes. Where do we go from here?
Wow. More of the same?
More of the same, yeah. Reinvent ourselves as we regularly do.
Well,
a bit.
I don't want to say
reinvent.
No, we evolve. I mean, that's what we did in the very, very beginning. I guess that kind of starts off with with one of my thoughts. And that was my initial expectations when we started this, because we came out of this, we came out of Slice of Sci-Fi. And for a very brief time, less than a year, I was sort of attached to another podcast called No Baggage Attached. And that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then that's when you thought up this idea of Two Gay Geeks. And coming from Slice, where we were getting some really great interviews to people to talk to, and we're talking, I'm not going to say A-listers, but certainly good, strong B-listers.
Well, and some A-listers as well. I mean, we talked to the guy that was the showrunner for Continuum.
That's true.
And we talked to several people from Grimm.
Yeah.
And a number of different,
I remember Tony Curran from who I can't remember the name of the sci-fi show, but we'd seen obviously in Doctor Who. So yeah, it was really great that we were able to get all this content, and I just kind of had this ridiculous idea. We're going to slide right into this, and we're going to take off, and we're going to be, we're going to be the hottest thing since. And talk about very false expectations on my part. Didn't realize we were going to have to literally build this thing from the ground up.
Right.
I just didn't know what to expect because we'd never built a podcast from the beginning. I mean, I had done Fusion Patrol, but my co-host Eugene was the one who was responsible for that, not me. And we weren't looking for other guests. I mean, we were just talking about a TV show we were watching. So that was a different animal than what we were trying to do. We were trying to build something that was sort of in the vein of Slice. We would talk about news and try to get interviews, and that was just a struggle and a half. And
right,
that
really was.
It was a huge struggle.
A pain first year.
It was a huge struggle,
really
and that's when I think through bizarre happenstance, the show began to evolve just through encountering other people that were in the industry, but on the independent side, meeting Neil.
Yep, Neil and Xena.
Neil and Xena with their short film, Case of Evil. Now, pure happenstance.
I mean, it truly was. That was a serendipitous moment.
Yeah, because as it turns out, Neil was the cousin of Bill Hensley.
Okay, there you go. Now it's working.
Oh, now it's working, yes.
Okay. You were saying.
So anyway, we went through an evolution because here we were expecting to be one thing, and it didn't happen that way. And then we started meeting people. First, I think, was Neil Halford, Neil and Xena, and that was sheer luck because we attended what was Phoenix Comic-Con at the time. Yep. And you're one of your best friends in the world, Bill Hensley, that you knew since childhood. He saw you made a post. Yep. And, that started us on this path. And that's when we began to realize, there's this whole world out here that has been neglected because everybody wants to get, the big A-list. Everybody wants to talk to the big Marvel or the big DC people, anything like that. And we began to realize there is some very good talent out there, and we're not paying attention to it. So I want to say that we're not necessarily reinventing. I think we're evolving. Yeah. We're growing.
Yeah, and I think that, it would be great to have some big names, but, we do good with what we have and the folks that we do talk to.
And I think the quantity or the quality of the interviews that we've had speak to that. And another thought that comes to mind is the fact that this is something that we built together.
Yeah. Exactly.
That we did this together. Everybody who's known us for any period of time realizes that, we met purely under nerdy circumstances.
Exactly.
You hooked me in with Babylon 5 and you sealed the deal with Doctor Who. Where else do you go with that?
Right.
And in between there was a lengthy Star Trek conversation.
Exactly.
So that kind of speaks, as to where we were at with our own lives and our own identity and things like that. And then to build something that, granted, it initially started on that foundation, but took on a life of its own as the show did evolve.
Right.
I think it's been really cool that we've been able to go on this journey together and discover this whole new world of independent creators and authors and the worlds that they create. I think it's been wonderful that we've been able to do this together, and I like what it has done for us.
Yeah, our relationship is, it's deepened more so since we've been doing this. Mm-hmm. And not that it was, we were on the rocks or anything, but
it's added a whole new layer that I think,
a whole new dimension of something that we have, that we both enjoy, that we've both created together, that we both enjoy. Well, I said that once already, and we said that also. What's the next thing? I don't know. But yeah, it really is kind of it hit at the beginning, and occasionally now it's very frustrating, and we get frustrated with each other because of certain things, technology is a big one. Yeah. Where's the next guest coming from, or
why is Skype not working?
Why is Skype not working? Or, oh my God, why are we talking about that?
Yeah.
Or whatever. But, it is more about us coming together and being who we are together.
Yeah.
So, and it's helped me to grow. And, if you look at and listen to some of the early episodes, I'm a lump on a log.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you that very question. When do you remember, is there a specific moment where you felt yourself starting to come out of your shell? Because I can think of one.
No, I think it's just that evolving. I can't think of anything.
The one that comes to mind is when it was one of the very first Phoenix Fan Fests, and it was the first time, maybe the second time, we went on location, and we went up to the host hotel for the Fan Fest, and we interviewed Rob Palmer.
Right.
And the other guy, oh shit, I can't remember his name. Whoops, sorry, I swore. That worked on that zombie film.
I Am Alone. Yep.
And I think because maybe we were face to face.
Right.
Maybe you felt like you could be more conversational, because I seem to remember you really speaking up more on that one.
Yeah, I guess that probably is true. But now I kind of lead the conversation sometimes and become more of a conversationalist, if you will.
Yeah, and that was one of the points that I was going that I thought of. And that is the quality of our interviews and conversation has just really gone up, and that's, I think a lot of people think that's just something they can easily pick up and boom, run with it. No, it's not.
It's something that it's something you learn.
You have to cultivate it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things on my list is things I'm most proud of, and I think one of those and Patricia Chica, our really good friend, has said that, she's sent us a number of people that this is their very first interview.
Yeah.
And she always says that everybody comes back and says they were so comfortable with us. Virtually everybody that we've talked to
pretty much
says, we're very easy to talk to. Well, one of the things that we tell people is we want to be laid back and conversational. If we go off on a tangent, that's absolutely fine. That's one of the reasons that when we interview somebody, we chat with them for a little bit beforehand, get to know them a little bit, and then we launch into the thing and we ask people about themselves. They let them talk about themselves. And that's really what this whole thing, and when we interview somebody, that's what it's all about. We're here to talk about what they want to talk about, not what we want to talk about.
No, that's absolutely true. And I think we can get...
It's their project.
And we get a lot of really great stuff that comes out of that. And I think of a couple of occasions where we got some just juicy stuff. I mean, first with Patricia and I can't remember his name. They worked on Morning After.
Christian.
Yeah, Christian Hatko, where they were at a film festival and some mice or rats got inside one person's suitcase and they're both just
eating the popcorn,
and they're just and in a really seedy hotel. I mean, and that's just something that just came out of nowhere. I mean, that was wonderful.
We get some gems out of people.
or another one that I loved, and I love to ask this question of writers and that, when do the characters come alive? And one author said that she'd written about this location in Northern California that never really existed.
That never existed. And they went on a trip.
And she was so
excited. We got to eat at this cafe, and it's so wonderful.
The food there was fantastic.
Blah, blah, blah.
And
then it's like,
it's not real.
That's not real. I made that up for a book.
She modeled it after a real town, but she had changed it for the sake of the story into becoming something else. And to me, that was one of the most brilliant insights into the minds of a writer, or listening to you and David R. Slayton reminisce about Oklahoma.
Yeah. And I want to do that some more. I mean, we did a lot of that off the air, but we did a little on the air as well. But
there's some great stuff there. And these are the neat things that come out. And I think because we've managed to cultivate this, the art, because it is an art, the art of interviewing. And I'm not saying we're the best at it in the world, but we are a heck of a lot better than what we were 300 episodes ago.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
There's no question about it. I mean, I think back to one of the first interviews I did with Slice, and it was horrible. I mean, I cringe, and I want to, cut my ears off every time it was suggested that I listen to it, because it's terrible. It's horrible. It's embarrassing. And I look now and I think, I really have come a long way. And I wish that some of those naysayers from back then, I'm not going to say any names, but I wish they would hear us now.
Exactly.
And realize, had we been given the opportunity to grow, that we could have made some serious leaps in our ability to be able to talk to other people and get them to open up about themselves and make it interesting.
Yeah. And I really cherish the friendships.
That was my next one.
Even from afar, the ones from afar that we have developed with people, the personal friendships and the actual friendships and meeting people. And actually when we travel, when we went to Washington, D.C. 2 years ago, we drove over to Virginia.
We did a day trip, and we drove down and met the Bionic Geek himself.
Yep. And it was great to be able to see these people and to go, we've talked to a number of people in Los Angeles. We've gone to visit them over there. It's really nice. And to have these friendships, even if they're long distance friendships, because they mean just as much.
I mean, there are several people that I desperately want to meet. And obviously David Slayton is one of them.
Yes.
I remember last night you were saying, once the great pause is over, to take the trip up to Colorado and meet him.
And Katie Edwards.
Oh, God. I want to meet him so badly. I really do. I love that guy so much, and he really has become more than just a friend of the show. He's become a personal friend of ours.
Right.
And I just love that guy to death. And there are so many others. Jason Gaffney,
Yes, I can't wait to meet them when the great pause is over.
And I want to meet his mother. And I want to meet both of his parents because they're both amazing people.
Yes.
I love these people so much.
And so many others. I mean, those are just the top of, please don't feel slighted if we haven't mentioned your name.
Yeah, because there's so many other people.
So many people that we have met and that we stay in contact with. That we've met Zachary Wheeler. We talked to him a couple of weeks ago. We actually met him before we ever talked to him. We met him at Phoenix Comic-Con, and a number of people that we've met and done interviews with at different cons, when we go and would travel to do that, which is an expensive proposition. And that's why, I always say we don't make a dime off of this show. In fact, we probably spend $5,000 a year on this show as a passion project. And all of that includes website maintenance, equipment, and traveling to these cons, paying for the hotels, paying for an admission, all of that kind of neat stuff. And the dumb stuff that we give away and all the things that we do. But it's a passion project. It's something that we enjoy doing.
And I think the rewards, clearly not monetary, but of a much higher quality come out. And at the same time, we're able to do something for these people too, because as I said earlier, we stumbled into this whole different world of independent creation. The talent that is there is not to be believed. And I am ashamed to admit that this one name went out of my head. He's an amazing writer. The Geek.
Oh, Jonathan Latt.
Jonathan Latt. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I mean, my brain is just not working at all today.
Yeah.
But
lazy day.
But Jonathan is a truly gifted writer, wrote what I think is one of the best pulp fiction books I've ever read in my entire life.
Yep.
And has become a strong personal friend of ours. So that every time we go to L.A., it's always a great opportunity to kind of meet up with him, have dinner with him if possible. And yet, here's this guy who had all this great contact with the industry, and yet he strikes out purely independently and is proof that there is some amazing talent that is to be found there. And we continue to find that in actors, filmmakers,
comic book artists.
There's so many out there.
That's part of the thing, is to be able to put ourselves out there and be vulnerable and seek out these people to talk to as well.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do sometimes, is to just put yourself out there and be vulnerable to, God, how many people have said no to us?
Yeah. But at the same time, how many people have said yes? And,
absolutely.
And we've met some great people.
And I would rather have sometimes the people that said yes to us than some of the people that said no, some of the big names that have said no, and some of the, the publicists that have said no to us.
Yeah.
Because we've given a platform to some folks that would otherwise not have a platform. And I feel so good now that we're reaching into the LGBTQ community and finding those independent creators and those people that we can give a voice to. And it just means a lot.
Yeah, to help give them some kind of push, because they desperately deserve it. I mean, I look to Jason Gaffney, who has, he's been in several projects already. Two of them very independent, one being Analysis Paralysis, and then the second one being Out of Body. And now getting ready to do a third one. Hopefully they can actually start filming any day now. Marriage of Convenience, I think is what it's called.
Right.
And the guy is a very, very, very talented actor. He is very, very good. And yet him, Jason, along with so many other actors, they just don't get the exposure that they deserve.
Right.
Because for whatever reason, the industry just doesn't recognize them. And that's just a crying shame, because I don't know how else to put it, how else to word this. Because I remember going to we had gone to Horrible Imaginings, saw some of the most brilliant independent horror films, both feature and short.
And that was because Neil had told us about that, and we interviewed Miguel because we weren't really horror fans at that time, and he helped us to understand what horror is. Now, granted, the first time we went, we didn't watch everything.
No, we were too busy.
A lot of things that we didn't watch because we were just a little squeamish about it.
Well, and we were also outside in the lobby interviewing people.
Yeah, but then the next year or two, we saw all 74 films.
Sat through the whole thing.
Yep.
Which was quite an undertaking.
Yep.
But I remember after I can't remember if it was the first or the second one, but we then came back and we had a screening to go to see. It was a big studio film, and it was the third Blair Witch film.
Oh, you saw that?
I saw it. You went on a business trip.
Yeah.
So I watched it and I hated it. And I made no bones of the fact. I wrote my review that I thought it was a terrible movie. And then I made the point that here we saw some of the most amazing independent work,
right,
that outshone the big studio stuff, and that was such a revelation to me.
Yeah. It's amazing how many independent films, the quality of those films are a shoestring budget, literally. Mm-hmm. How good they are and how well crafted they are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it says something about independent filmmakers and people that care about what they do and the way they do it.
Yeah,
and it's a passion for them to make those films. I'm going to talk about one thing that I am probably most proud of, and it's something stupid, and it's the fact that now we run 2 spots.
Yeah.
One for the Trevor Project and one for the Trans Lifeline.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, that's important. That's very important.
It is. And I even reached out to Trans Lifeline and I said, this is the spot that we run. Is it acceptable to you? They suggested a few changes, a few editorial changes. I changed that and re-recorded it, and that's the one that we run right now. And so we kind of have their blessing.
Oh, that's good to know.
For running that spot, and it says what it needs to say in the appropriate language that it needs to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And because the LGBTQ community is, and I'm going to say it, the last 4 years we've been really beaten up by this administration, and that's as far politically as I'm going to go. But there is a lot of people that feel downtrodden and feel there is no place to go and choose suicide rather than living. And I would just encourage everyone to seek out somebody and talk with them, whether it's at the Trevor Project or the Trans Lifeline or the Suicide Prevention Hotline or any of the other things, resources, that you can find. Mm-hmm. So please reach out. You're not alone.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the best things that we've done for the sake of the show and for the sake of our community. And it takes me back to something, here we are, we're getting ready to celebrate 300, and I look back to the last big milestone we celebrated, and I want to say that was 150. And that's when we interviewed Mike Meningay.
Yeah.
Our podfather.
150 or was it 200? Maybe it was, no, maybe it was 150.
I think it was 150.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was 150. And I remember at one point, and I can't remember actually if this was during the course of the interview or if it was after the interview when we were just talking to him. But he said that of all the shows that spun off of Slice, he was ridiculously proud of ours at what we managed to do. And I remember he said, you guys have done a great job at
the geek part.
At pushing the geek. You've done a great job at that. And he said, now I want you to focus on the gay. Of Two Gay Geeks, I want you to put more emphasis on the gay. And I remember initially feeling great reluctance to do that because I was worried that we might alienate a good chunk of our audience, and that was not the case. Not at all. In fact, it was quite the opposite. In fact, once we started doing that, several things happened. First, it opened us to a whole new area of interview possibilities.
Exactly.
Because we were then opened up to, LGBTQ actors and LGBTQ authors and writers of movies, screenwriters. I mean, it was just what became available to us was incredible. And at the same time, I think our audience grew at the same time.
Right.
So that who am I to argue with our podfather? I mean, obviously he knows what he's talking about.
Exactly. And I just want to wind up with, this has been, there's been a lot of fun. It's been a grind sometimes.
Yeah.
But the reward, and as far as the grind, there are days that I think, why are we doing this? I just don't want to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. But then I look back and I say, the rewards far outweigh the madness that we faced. I do get depressed about it because it's like, oh my gosh,
Well,
do we really have to do this again?
I think a lot of people, a lot of podcasters who've been doing this for a long time, I think they get depressed, and I think maybe that's why so many of them have such a shelf life.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I look to Crazy Joe. Because I think he runs he does his podcast every so many years and then it just kind of dies out. And that's not a criticism on Joe. I think that's just a fact of life for so many podcasters.
Yep.
I know that, and as we reach 300, I'm reminded that 300 is a magic number for me because that's right at the time when I sort of got pulled into Slice of Sci-Fi. And even as they hit 300, Mike had to put a pause. He had to take a break because I think, he wanted to redesign the studio. But at the same time, I think he's like, I need a break from this.
Right.
And he took like a 3-month or so break just so he could kind of clear his head, kind of find a new sense of energy to do it. I mean, it really does take a lot out of you.
Yep.
So to say that it's a grind and that you get depressed, I think that's common.
Yep. I think it is, but we're going to keep going, at least for the time being. We signed up for another 3 years with GoDaddy. So
now we're committed to
we're committed to at least the website. So,
yeah.
And that's our thoughts on episode 300.
Hello, this is Carlton Tetley, the host of This Got Made, and you're listening to the Two Gay Geeks. Am I getting paid for this?
Well, maybe he's not getting paid for that.
I do not get tired of that.
That's a crazy one.
I love Carlton Tetley.
I do too. And here's a few selected birthdays for November 9th through November 15th, 2020. November 9th, Carl Sagan.
I'd say that Carl Sagan was probably the first modern-day scientist to make science cross over into pop culture. And I'm not talking, obviously there's a lot of science fiction writers and whatnot, but Carl took real science. He used real science and made it available to the masses.
Yep. And then he was author, scientist, astronomer, cosmologist, and more. I mean, he wrote over 600 scientific papers and 20 books.
And his TV series Cosmos was like one of the best shows ever.
Known for his work with SETI, as well as his series Cosmos and the movie Contact.
Oh, fabulous.
Made the famous saying, billions and billions.
Yes. Billions.
Talk.
Hello. Oh my goodness gracious me. That's because of our cats.
Yeah, we have some problems with. May have to get a new board.
May have to get another board.
Oh, another expense.
Yeah.
And then we have Hedy Lamarr.
That's Hedley.
No, that's Hedy, the actress. She made films for MGM, was also the inventor of what is the basis of today's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
I keep forgetting about that.
And she was never compensated for that because by the time, the statute of limitations time had run out on that, and she didn't up her patent, etc. And sued Mel Brooks and because of the
because of Blazing Saddles?
Hedley Lamar.
Oh,
that's
sad.
And actually, Mel made it go away. He gave her some money out of court, and she was satisfied.
Oh, I'm sorry that bothered her. I mean, it wasn't meant to poke fun at her.
No, it was just
more to poke fun at Hedley.
Yeah. But she made a lot of money in films, but lost it through her production company.
Oh, how sad!
Yeah, and the saddest thing is that she died impoverished in Florida in 2000.
It's terrible when somebody that had such a great career in the industry.
Oh, she was a beautiful woman, too.
To pass away in that kind of a situation.
Yep. She was living on SAG and SAG amounts and Social Security that amounted to about $300 a month.
That's pathetic.
When she died.
That's not good.
Terrible. And then we have Dorothy Dandridge, actress, beautiful woman of color. Oh, my gosh, she was just stunning. Starred in Carmen Jones, where Marilyn Horne did the singing voice, was the first African-American woman to grace the cover of Life magazine.
Powerful.
Was referred to by Lena Horne as our Marilyn Monroe.
Okay, I'll accept that.
Yep. And then we have good friend of ours, Tony Kim, and of Hero Within clothing line. Please support Tony right now.
They do great stuff.
He has not had, a lot coming in because his whole business model was based on the convention scene.
And he had to surrender the Marvel contract on clothing because his business was impacted by the Great Pause.
Yep. And then we have a good friend of ours, Zach Hayhurst, who is with Arizona Opera.
He just sent us through Instagram some good wishes. He's a wonderful guy.
Oh, cool. November 10th, Neil Gaiman, writer, comics, short fiction, scripts, graphic novels.
The Doctor's Wife.
Yes, The Doctor's Wife. And your favorite, Princess Mononoke.
Oh, God.
He did the adaptation of that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
English adaptation of that.
Oh, I had no idea.
He did an episode of B5.
That's right.
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
Yep.
One of the most controversial episodes out there.
Yep. And our favorite, The Doctor's Wife.
Yes.
Ennio Morricone, composer. Over 521 credits in IMDb. He was a classmate of Sergio Leone and would team up as the best director-composer partnerships in the world. Of course, Leone was Mr. Spaghetti Western.
Oh, yes, of course.
And, everybody recognizes the gunfight theme from
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
From Good, Bad, and the Ugly, yeah. And interesting, we were talking about last night of not spaghetti westerns,
we're
but
watching
Mandalorian.
But there's a spaghetti western moment. It screams spaghetti western.
Yeah, and so I called it a space-getty western.
Yeah, which I thought was terribly clever.
Yeah, and Morricone died in July at the age of 91.
Wow.
Roland Emmerich, director, screenwriter. If he hadn't made Stargate, we would have nothing to watch on our anniversary.
That's true.
Because that's we watched it, every anniversary.
Well, it did more than that. I mean, he carved out a whole... His work in that movie, even though he was not directly responsible for it, but it spawned a franchise.
Exactly. SG-1, Atlantis, Universe... He directed Independence Day and Godzilla, and one of only a few openly gay directors in Hollywood. And then we have Greg Lake
of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
November 11th, Stanley Tucci, actor. It was in Julia and Julia and Devil Wears Prada. Great chemistry with Meryl Streep. I mean,
those
when they
two
work
are
together,
fabulous
they're
together.
Just great together. And he was a roommate of Ving Rhames, whose real first name is Irving. Any script?
Bing
Yes.
Rames.
He actually credits Stanley with the first to call him Ving.
Okay.
So
Cool.
And then we have Dick Cavett, actor, a talk show host. Very dry delivery as an actor.
Extremely dry.
Yes, and very intelligent as well. So that was the Dick Cavett show was always the erudite.
It was.
Interviews.
Of all the daytime talk shows, and I'm not even sure there was a daytime talk show, to be honest.
I think it was evening.
I want to say it was evening, but it got replayed on PBS several times. But yeah, that was for the intellectual. I mean, that's a talk show for the intelligentsia.
Yep. And then we have Vincent Ciavelli. He was a character actor. Oh my gosh, you ought to see how many credits he has on IMDb.
Oh, tons.
He was a favorite of Milos Forman. He was in Amadeus as Salieri's servant. And then we have a good friend of ours who is one of those people. I mean, it's
love this guy.
We talked about, and we many times we've talked about, we're not the kind of people that you remember. We're the kind of people that you never forget.
That's true.
And for some reason, I don't think of myself as a likable person.
Ditto to that one.
Together, everybody likes us.
Yeah, we're great together, but alone, man, it's like, oh, you run away from me. I'm horrible.
But we've made friends with a number of people on Disney cruises, a number of cast members that have been on different ships. And Andrew McDade, who we met on the transition cruise from
Vancouver down to LA.
And we met him in New York when we were there in January.
That's right.
March, actually. Sorry.
He was there vacationing in New York with his girlfriend.
Just happened to see it on Facebook and said, "Hey, we need to."
Yeah, it took some finagling because they had their own agenda, we had our own agenda, but we finally did meet up in Times Square.
Yeah, it was,
and we visited for about an hour, and it was so good to see him.
Yeah, it was great,
and I understood him.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a horrible time understanding him the first time. I couldn't get past his Scottish accent. It was so thick.
Exactly.
But it's
about every third word, and you just kind of nod your head and go.
And that was by the end of the cruise. But I found that when we saw him in New York, I actually understood everything that he was saying. It was most amusing.
Yep, November 12th. Auguste Rodin, sculptor, generally considered the founder of modern sculpture, known for a number of pieces, most famously The Thinker.
Oh, yes.
And then we have Jo Stafford, singer, started out with Tommy Dorsey, and then her group, the Pied Pipers. Her solo career produced 93 hits over 13 years. She married Paul Weston, who was an arranger, actually, for Tommy Dorsey and several others.
And the world was never the same.
And a producer who worked for Columbia. And they would have parties, and they would excuse themselves and come back downstairs as Jonathan and Darlene Edwards. If you have not heard of them, you must look them up on YouTube. Specifically, I Love Paris.
Yes. I find myself so agonizing over the fact that I would love to have been at one of those Hollywood parties when they came down as Jonathan and Darlene, because they were hilariously funny.
The Jonathan and Darlene Edwards were a fourth-rate lounge act.
Yes. Is that how they're described?
Yes.
Okay.
Jonathan played the piano awfully.
Badly. Very badly.
And Darlene sang off-key. Terribly.
She had the ability to sing sharp and make it sound legit. Now, that's a talent. I mean, seriously, it's very easy for a singer to come in flat, but for a singer to come in sharp and make it sound like that you're not doing it deliberately, but you're doing it because you're just simply a bad singer, that takes a lot of skill.
Yep. And they actually made an album of Jonathan and Darlene in Paris.
Oh.
And it won a Grammy.
Oh, I'm hoping Best Comedy.
Yes.
Oh, good. Because it's not meant to be taken seriously.
The only Grammy that she ever won.
She deserved more.
Exactly.
But, okay, so she finally gets one.
Yep. And then we have Alexander Borodine. He was a chemist and Russian composer. Interesting. And he had several other compositions. He and several other composers, such as Glazunov and Rimsky-Korsakov, among others, sought to create a uniquely Russian style. Borodine wrote the opera Prince Igor, which the famous Polovtsian dances
I love that.
Come from, and several of his compositions were adapted for the musical Kismet. So, and then we have Wallace Inconceivable Shawn, actor from The Princess Bride. He was a Grand Nagus in DS9, several Pixar films, and Eureka. He has this unique delivery.
I would not call him a character actor. I would call him a caricature actor.
Exactly. And then we have my brother, Kurt Lane.
Happy birthday, Kurt.
Happy birthday, Kurt. November 13th, Whoopi Goldberg, actress. She was Guinan on Star Trek, Sister Act, Ghost, Color Purple, and many more.
Oh, talented.
Hates flying.
Oh, does she?
Yes, she
I didn't
usually
know that.
travels by bus. And she once worked in a mortuary, applying makeup to corpses before she hit it big.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And her stage name, Whoopi Goldberg, it had an evolution. She started out as a stand-up comedian as Whoopee Cushion.
Okay.
And so it evolved from there to Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, all right.
Yep. And then we have John Delancey.
Madman. He's
actor,
nuts.
All the way back to $6 Million Man.
Oh, I didn't know he's in $6 Million Man.
Yes.
I was introduced to him in Strange as it Seems. Days of Our Lives. He was a soap. He was a regular on that show.
339 episodes.
And
yes.
he played this very whimsical character, slightly eccentric, but just delightful and beloved. And then he made the transition into Q.
Yep.
Then
Deep Space Nine.
And then
Voyager,
he had a recurring
Next
role in SG-1.
Yep. He was actually on in an episode of original Battlestar Galactica.
I probably watched it. I just don't remember it.
And in Emergency, as well as several other things back in the 70s and 80s. So, interesting career. And then we have author David Lee Summers.
Astronomer.
And astronomer as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
that's his real job.
I think back to that awesome day.
Yep,
last
year, yeah.
Day after Thanksgiving, we made the trip down to Tucson, and then we went up to Kitt Peak Observatory.
Where there was snow on the ground.
Dreadful weather. I mean, it was practically a blizzard up there. Mm-hmm. And missed a
rock slide.
Missed a rock slide.
Would have killed us.
that would have knocked us off the road.
Exactly.
And when I'm saying off the road, I'm talking like off a mountainside. But then got that incredible personal tour of the observatory.
Yes.
Which was amazing.
Exactly. And then we have former classmate of mine, Mark Whitman.
Who we have to thank because he was the one who introduced us to the Vicar of Dibley.
Yes. November 14th, Claude Monet. Painter, founder of the French Impressionist movement. His early work is quite stunning, but it was when the last part of his life, 30 years of his life, when he bought property in Giverny and embarked on a massive landscape project that his most famous work stems from. His lily ponds and all of the stuff that's out there. And it's interesting to see the progression of his cataracts in his work.
Because he was painting what he was seeing.
Yeah, I mean, his early stuff is very clear.
And the thing is...
And then you started to see it got a little fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier.
And I can't help but wonder if maybe because of his eyesight, he gave birth to an art form quite by accident.
Yep. It is pretty amazing stuff. And the stuff that we saw at the art museum.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. It's just great. Then we have Patrick Warburton, actor, voiceover actor.
Dork.
Very quirky delivery style. Emperor's New Groove. He's the narrator and the guide of Soarin' Over California.
He's the biggest dork in that. I love it.
Oh my gosh, it's just wonderful. He's just the way he delivers that. It's just he's so self-important.
That's a
dorky
good
way.
Yes, self-important. That's the best way to put it.
And then we have Aaron Copeland, composer, many recognizable pieces, most famously the fanfare for the Common Man used by the Olympics. Was gay, but not openly declared.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, but made no bones about traveling with his intimates, over the years. So
I just love him for his music.
It was just one of those things that was, understood, but never talked about.
I think about, like Hoedown from the Ballet Rodeo.
Yep.
It's just fanfare for the Common Man.
The Appalachian Spring music.
The Lincoln Portrait.
Oh, my gosh.
That's amazing.
Yeah. A lot of different things that he wrote. He was the quintessential Americana composer.
Yeah.
And then we have Paul McGann. Doesn't count.
Yes, he does.
He does count. The actor, he was in Alien. He was in the American Doctor Who, if you will. And a Doctor Who miniseries is the voice of the Doctor. Several of the miniseries and TV series.
And I think probably the most telling is, and this was during the Stephen Moffat era, just before we got the anniversary episode, The Day of the Doctor, we got a short called The Night of the Doctor. And Stephen Moffat put that one out quite sneakily. Nobody expected it. And then out pops Paul McGann. And I think there was just, cheers around the world. Everybody was thrilled to see him return to the Doctor visually for one more time.
Yep. And we saw him in B&B.
Oh, he was great in that.
It was great. He once said, "I don't want to be remembered as the George Lazenby of Doctor Who."
He's not. He's not. Trust me.
Yep. And then we have Wendy Carlos, composer, helped in the development of the Moog synthesizer directly with Robert Moog.
Yeah.
And created several albums of Bach's music on the synthesizer painstakingly.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
It's like one note at a time. Unbelievable. Music for The Clockwork Orange and Tron. Raised awareness of transgender issues in 1979.
Yeah.
By declaring that she had been living openly as a woman since 1968.
Yeah.
So, fascinating woman. No, then we have Galen Hughes, our niece.
My niece.
Happy birthday. And November 15th, Johnny Lee Miller, actor, Trainspotting, Elementary. He was an excellent Sherlock Holmes.
I loved him as Holmes.
His grandfather was Bernard Lee, who played M in the early Bond films.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yes. And the interesting thing was his character in Trainspotting was obsessed with the early Sean Connery Bond films.
How appropriate.
Exactly. And then Georgia O'Keeffe, painter considered the mother of American modernism, famous for her Southwestern art that she painted while she was in Taos. She died in 1986 at the age of 98.
Wow. Good for her.
And then we saw an exhibit at the Phoenix Art Museum that was all Georgia O'Keeffe's work. It was incredible. It was fascinating. And then we have Daniel Barenboim, pianist, could be considered a prodigy, gave his first performance at the age of 7, mostly conducts now. And I put him on here because I always like to tell this story that in my hometown of Muskogee, Oklahoma, they had a community concert series. It was a subscription series that you had to buy, and they would bring different people in. They had Barenboim that came in one year, and he came back a couple of years later because they had bought a new Busendorfer piano.
I remember you telling me about
piano,
this.
Built a new cabinet for it, humidor in there, and climate controlled, etc. And he came to inaugurate this or christen this piano, and he's playing along, and all of a sudden the B flat key breaks off, and he just calmly picks it up and sets it up on the thing and keeps on playing.
That's graceful for you.
It was just kind of everybody in the audience sitting there horrified.
Sure.
Because it's brand new, expensive piano that they bought.
It breaks.
Exactly. And that's it for the birthdays this time.
This is Pinky here. You and I and the brain are listening to Krypton Radio. Sci-fi for your Wi-Fi. Love.
Go give a listen to Krypton Radio, and if you're listening to us on Tuesdays, you're listening to Krypton Radio, where we're on 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays, and it's a 24-hour geeky internet radio station, and the station manager is Gene Turnbow.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counselors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
Well, it's our feedback and got quite a bit to get through here. So let's fly through it. Starting off, and I should point out that the links for each of these articles that generated these feedback segments will be featured in the show notes for this episode at tggeeks.com. And I've got to admit, I love the gifts that keep on giving, and this is one of them. This is an article from 2018 regarding Space 1999, a retrospective, or what happened in Season 2. We got a comment from Deborah Rouse on our website. She says they made a mistake by dropping many of the great characters from the first season. Those characters had already found a place in our minds because their characters had been developed. Moreover, I, for one, also really liked the actors they dropped. Barry Morse, Prentice Hancock, Clifton Jones, Anton Phillips, and Zanya Merton, for she was part of the second season. Some were axed for terrible reasons, and others walked out because they were being treated very poorly with decreased on-screen time as well as decreased salaries. They played games with Barry Morse's salary because they wanted him to leave. Fred Freiberger saying, "Science fiction needs young faces." Freiberger then convinced Jerry Anderson to go along with him on letting Barry Morse go. Talk about a kick in the teeth. He played one of my favorite characters. They had some clumsy dialogue in another episode indicating that his Victor Bergman character had died due to a faulty spacesuit. And I also read that by the second season, Sylvia Anderson, Jerry's wife, was in the process of divorcing him for firing her from the show.
Oh, dear Lord.
She had a hand in casting the season 1 regulars apart from the two leads, so it seemed that Jerry allowed the rest of season 1's cast to let go out of spite. You got a lot of really great stuff there, Deborah, and I will say, I love Jerry Anderson, I love his work, but he does allow himself to be manipulated by, network producers, etc. They say, we don't like what you're doing, we want you to do this, so he always caved, which is tragic, because that's what killed, I think, Space 1999, as well as the TV series UFO. Moving along, and Xena is another one of those gifts that keep on giving. Regarding, will we ever see a Xena warrior princess anything? Got a comment from Andrew Jennings, who says, I would love to see Xena as a guest in some game series. Mortal Kombat will be a great start. And I agree with you, Andrew. I would love to see her in that. I love the idea of, cross-universe pollination kind of thing.
Isn't Xena a flower?
Yes. Yeah. Xenia flowery princess. And then we got a comment from Orlando Sebastian Salazar, who said, didn't she die? For good? Well, I wouldn't know. And then got a comment regarding Ben's gay breakdown. Stray fears is a multi-layered dark horror-filled surprise. Got a comment from the author himself, Greg Riash, and he says, thank you, guys.
Hey, how about that? Greg made it into the comment section.
You made it to the feedback again, Greg. You can celebrate. And then lastly, we close out with a general comment from, we mentioned him earlier in the show, Katie Edwards, the author of the Tarot Sequence books. He says, so TG Geeks are my favorite people in the world right now because they reminded me Star Trek Discovery was back on. My review? I think it was the best 2 hours of sci-fi I've ever seen. Definitely in top 10. Season 3 is a masterclass in how to reinvent a series. It was simply astounding, funny, dramatic, gorgeous, cinematography, flawless acting and scripting, amazing special effects, just wow. And the arc they've set up for the season is one of the best I've seen in a series. They even score high in an LGBT plus representation with more ahead. And I couldn't agree with you more. And that is our feedback for this week.
If you want to leave a comment, anything that we publish, whether it's an episode or an article, you can do that at tggeeks.com directly on that article or episode. You can do it also on our Facebook page at TG Squared Studios, also on Twitter of any of our Twitter handles, and on Instagram. If you would like, you can call and leave us a voicemail about what you think, and we'll play that on air, and you could be famous too. You can call 469 TG Geeks. That is 469-844-3357. And as always, please play nice. Whoops. That was the wrong sound. Oh, well. As everybody knows, we're huge supporters of independent creators, whether it's filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others. We encourage you to go to those creators' websites, Facebook pages, Etsy pages, Twitter pages, Instagram pages. See what they're all about. Talk about them. Talk to others about them. Talk to them. And please buy their stuff. Support independent creators. Also, the Joshua Tree Feeding Program is a 501c3 nonprofit food pantry for the HIV/AIDS community in Maricopa and Pinal counties. They could really use your assistance right now. They don't have enough turkeys to give to every client. They do that every year at Thanksgiving, give a turkey to every client. But one of their suppliers is not able to order turkeys this year, so they're asking for folks to give donations so they can buy turkeys. I've already pitched in quite a bit of money, and I would like to say that others that are listening to this show and have read our website have done the same. Please support Joshua Tree Feeding Program by going to jtfp.org. If you are trans or are questioning your gender identity, and if you are in crisis or are feeling isolated and need someone to talk to, or you know of someone in a similar situation, there is a special hotline just for you. The hotline is provided by translifeline.org and staffed by trained counselors who are transgender themselves. The hotline in the U.S. is 877-565-8860. In Canada, it is 877-330-6366. Or you can go to translifeline.org to learn about the important work they are doing. Please reach out for help. You are not alone.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
Well, that's our second segment sound, but we actually don't really have a second segment other than to say that we have a special guest next week.
It could not be a more appropriate guest.
The very first interview that we ever did for episode 300, we're going to talk to Jeannie Koch. And we had quite an interesting conversation with her.
Oh, so yes.
Tune in next week.
And And it's time to run down all of the things that we ran on our website this past week at tggeeks.com. And the links for each of these items will be in the show notes for this episode at tggeeks.com, starting with Sunday, November 1st, Nerdy Chupacabras number 20. On Monday the 2nd, TG Geeks episode number 298. On Tuesday the 3rd, Ben's Breakdown, Star Trek Discovery, Season 3 episode thoughts. On Wednesday the 4th, Ben's Gay Breakdown, Imaginary Lover is Nothing But Real Fun. That was a book review I did, written by Morgan Bryce. And then on Thursday the 5th, Andrew's Angle for a poignant modern-day Western, Just Let Him Go. And then on Friday, it's a very serious action thriller, or Western thriller. And then on Friday the 6th, new sushi number 105, morsels of news from Japan and beyond, all from the wonderfully amazing Hamish Downey. And then on Saturday the 7th, Can You Help Joshua Tree for Thanksgiving? And that is what we ran on our website at tggeeks.com. Have some shout-outs that we need to make. First, to the Arkle Times Post-Dispatch News for republishing our content from time to time, put out by the human Arkle, Brian Weber, and you can find the Post-Dispatch News by finding him on Twitter. Do that by searching for Arkle at ARKLE. You can also find him on YouTube under Arkle Studios. Brian has a number of his projects, his Shameless Cash Grab series, his Rants vs. Zombie series, as well as his game videos of Trick and Treat, as well as Star Trek Online. Go to youtube.com/Arkle Studios. We must also give some shout-outs to a couple of Facebook groups for allowing us to post episodes and relevant articles on their pages. As always, we give thanks to Gay Geeks After Hours. Big thanks to the moderators for literally saying we could share away our content there. The URL is facebook.com/groups/Gay Geeks After Hours. And then to the Gay Geek for all of the same. And the URL is facebook.com/groups/The Gay Geek. And we must give special thanks to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves.
Thanks, Jeremiah. And we can be found on Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher, as well as where other fine podcasts can be found. Also, check out Krypton Radio at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays and listen to the other content. 24-hour geeky internet radio station. Please rate us and review us on iTunes. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We'll have several links on the page. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357 from TG Squared Studios. I am Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and those around you. Stay home, stay safe, and stay sane. Peace.
Cheers.